Hey everyone, Brian the Filmmaker here, and today I want to talk about the 5 things that I love about owning a cinema camera and the 5 things that I really miss when I'm shooting with it about shooting with a mirrorless or DSLR camera. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to start with the things that I really like about the cinema camera. The first thing that I love is the professional audio. You've got XLR inputs, really good preamps, phantom power, basically everything you need to get really good professional audio, whether you're mounting a mic on the camera or you are in a studio setup where you've got it on a C-stand and can just record directly into it so you don't have to have an external recorder or compromise on your audio quality because the camera doesn't have great preamps and things like that. So having such great audio controls and great built-in audio is the first thing that is a huge game changer on this camera. The second thing that I absolutely love about working with a cinema camera is the internal ND. Now, not every cinema camera has one. Obviously, Red, ARRI do not have internal ND, but things like the Canon C series or the Sony FX and FS series have internal ND, and it is a huge game changer. Even Blackmagic has started integrating internal ND, so a lot of cinema cameras have them, and it makes working so much faster and easier, not having to mess with screwing on and off external NDs or having to mount a matte box to switch out NDs, things like that. So I absolutely love it. Game changer, one of my favorite features and probably my most used feature of a cinema camera. The next thing that I love is just the overall video-centric design of cinema cameras. You've got generally all the buttons on the side, all the audio controls, so many customizable buttons, just the general ergonomics of it being a little bit longer rather than kind of the wide, flat DSLR style body. It makes all the difference in the world to operability and being able to quickly get to your settings and do what you need to do in a professional work environment. The next thing that I really appreciate is the professional look and size of the camera when, working with clients or even posting on social media, on my website. It looks a lot better when you have, something like this versus having a little DSLR or something that people who are not familiar with all the specs of the cameras may think is just like the camera that they got their wife for Christmas or that their grandma's using. And the last one is that a lot of times cinema cameras have better codecs. And this very much varies between cinema cameras, especially the higher you get. A lot of them have built-in internal ProRes. Red has the R3D RAW. Blackmagic has the Blackmagic RAW. ARRI has ARRI RAW. Like a lot of these cameras have really amazing internal codecs that you're not going to find built into DSLRs. Some DSLRs might be able to shoot stuff like ProRes or RAW with external recorders and things, but not built right into the body. So that brings us to the cons, or the things that sometimes can be more frustrating or challenging with a cinema camera. The first one is the double-edged sword of the larger body. This can be a little bit of a challenge for things like having to mount it on gimbals or steady cams or tripods or things like that. You need bigger gear to be able to accommodate the weight and size of it. So the bigger body can sometimes be a hindrance. It also can be a big hindrance if for moving quickly, because with a small mirrorless or DSLR camera, it's pretty easy to grab a shot and move real fast and grab a shot and move real fast. And with this guy, it's like, okay, we're set up now, we got to move, grab some different shots. You can still be fairly quick, like handheld with it, but not as fast as with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera Same thing, especially if you're like on a tripod moving it, it's a much slower, more cumbersome process to be moving. It's just not as quick and easy as smaller cameras. The other thing that comes along with this is it's not a very discreet camera. Like, people are gonna notice this camera. If you're shooting events, you're probably gonna get a lot more people stopping and staring rather than being able to catch those candid moments that you want for your wedding film or your corporate film or things like that. So you really have to be aware of, you know, those kinds of things. When you're using this camera, it might not be the best run and gun discreet camera. You may get stopped by security at certain places. Because the camera is so big and they may think that you need some kind of permission to shoot there, you know, things like that. They'll wonder if you're news or, you know, kind of what's going on. And this can really slow the process down if either you get kicked out of a location or have to stop and explain, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the camera, this is what the project is. The third thing is all the accessories for this camera are more expensive. Batteries are $200 to $400 depending on the size of the battery. The XQD cards that this camera shoots with are $200 to $400. CFast cards that a lot of cinema cameras use, very similar price point. Even like the necessary accessories are expensive, but then when you get into other things like gimbals that will support this, or steady cams that will support this, or cages and mounting points and other third-party accessories, that all adds up pretty quickly, gets much more expensive than if you are using a DSLR or mirrorless camera. Building on that, with all these accessories, all the things that you need to get this camera operating, you have more gear. So when I was shooting, you know, with just the GH5, I could have one, you know, medium-sized Pelican case that had my lenses, my batteries, my SD cards, my camera, everything. Basically, I had a tripod and a Pelican case, and like, that's all I needed. But now I have like 3 Pelican cases because, you know, this guy and just all the basics with him take up 1 Pelican case. My lenses take up another Pelican case. You know, all my other accessories need to go in another Pelican case. Just the amount of gear has really blown up since I've gotten this camera, which if you're a 1-man or even a 2-man team, that's a lot of gear to be hauling back and forth and working with. The final thing that kind of culminates a lot of these is it's generally harder on your body. If you're shooting a wedding, which I've done several times with this camera, your body hurts a lot more at the end of the day. Either you've been carrying it around on a tripod all day, or you've been hand holding it all day, and so your arms are killing you, or you're shoulder mounted and your shoulder hurts. It's just kind of the nature of working with a bigger camera is it's much harder on your body. The amount of extra gear that you have is harder on your body, the general weight of the camera. Just everything, it's harder on your body if you're doing a lot of long days work with it. If a lot of what's being done with the camera is, you know, interview type setups like this, you're not gonna notice that pain a lot, but if you're running around with the camera, it's definitely a lot harder on your body than something, you know, like a GH5 or A7S III or other small mirrorless camera is going to be. So with all those pros and cons, what do I think about it? I definitely do enjoy having a cinema camera and using it in certain applications. I think it is an amazing camera. The image out of it is fantastic. I really have no complaints about that, but there are times when I really gravitate back towards wanting, missing, or even using smaller cameras because they're just so much more efficient in so many ways. And if I need to work really, really fast, I generally will grab the smaller cameras, even though they don't necessarily have the same image quality that this guy has or some of the features that this guy has. Sometimes I actually debate, do I want to maybe sell this guy and get, you know, some smaller cinema cameras like the FX6, for example, and also an A7S III or FX3 to go alongside it so that I've got one, just a general smaller cinema body with pretty much all the advantages that I love about it, but it's gonna be less hard on my body, as well as having a small camera that still has a great image for the Steadicam for the times I need to really run and gun type shooting. Let me know what you guys love and dislike about shooting with larger cinema cameras or DSLRs, and I will catch all of you in the next video.